Welcome everybody to the MBL Waiver Focus. I'm your host Nathaniel Shook. Joining with me is Phillip Shook. Phillip, go ahead and say hi.
What's up, guys?
What's up, guys? So today we're actually going to give you a kind of look into our first episode of Season 2 Waiver Focus for the Masters Battle League. And I am looking forward to it, as I'm sure Phillip is as well.
For sure.
Phillip is actually going to be he's the coach of Cinnabar, so he's actually returning to Cinnabar, right? Whereas I made the move to Ecruteak. And so we already had our draft. Instead of last year where we drafted 10 Pokemon, now we're doing 9 Pokemon, which means there's a lot more waiver picks available for people to pick up and restructure their teams as they go into Week 1, starting May 17th. So actually a couple days from now, and they'll have from May 17th all the way to May 24th to get their Week 1 matches completed. But moving forward, we got a couple picks. Me and Phillip kind of looked at the draft board and what was available, and we decided to compile 5 unique but very specific picks that would immediately bolster some of these teams. Mm-hmm. And we'll go into what team probably needs it more than ever. Right. But we're also going to be breaking down why these Pokemon are worth your interest to pick up, and for those of you who are watching who are outside the league, why you might, whatever team you're rooting for, you might encourage them to draft these Pokemon. So the very first one we're going to look at today, right off the top, is going to be Xatu. Phillip, any ideas why Xatu is like a decent pick for you?
I think it's primarily because it has Magic Bounce. That's the ability, which for people who don't know, so like hazards like Stealth Rocks or Spikes or Sticky Web, the ability Magic Bounce, where if he's out on the field and someone uses one of those hazard moves, it essentially bounces back. And so like someone uses Stealth Rocks on him, it'll bounce back. So now Stealth Rocks has been put in your own field.
No, absolutely.
So it's really good for lead. I don't know if it gets Tailwind or Defog. I'm not exactly sure.
So this is actually a good time to really talk about movesets, because I think Xatu only has really one decent one. He's seen more in the RU tier, but he does have some viability in UU, and there's a reason why. As Phillip already talked about, Magic Bounce is a big thing, right? Yeah. Hazards.
That's the main reason. I guess
absolutely.
The main thing.
Even if you're trying to status them on, it's a big deal. But you also look at its versatility, right? So if you pair this up with Heavy Boots, it allows you immediately to control hazards, right? There is a limitation to what he can and can't do. Magic Bounce is the primary factor here, right? Mm-hmm. Get him in, have him bounce those status and those hazards up. But aside from that, it's really hard to utilize him in the UU tier. And the reason why I'm focusing on UU is because most of our Mons are going to be in the OU tier. So you're looking at his moveset to be kind of around Psychic, Roost, Heat Wave, or Thunder Wave. You can kind of vary between the two. Nice. Thunder Wave is especially nice.
If you're using him as a lead, as you would do a lot because of Magic Bounce, Thunder Wave is kind of a nice support thing to have.
Right, and we look at speed tier specifically, and me and Phillip have talked about this, and even I've talked about this on the Blitz, is that speed tiers are really important, mainly because the speeds for most Pokemon in this generation are incredibly low. And until we make it to Season 3, where we have a lot more Pokemon Home, the DLC comes out, that speed tier will be relatively low. So having Thunder Wave is immensely important.
Well, not just that, but like there's less Pokemon that have like Refresh or Heal Bell or any of that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Move tutors aren't in yet.
Absolutely.
And there's just less Pokemon that actually got that move. Like, for example, like Chansey's not in the game. She was one of the people that used that move a lot. So things that you status are a lot of the times going to stay status. There's only a few. I think Clefable's one of them, gets Heal Bell through like an egg move or something, but there's not a whole lot of them. So
and you can look at it this way. You can also run this guy defensive with Rocky Helmet. Mm-hmm. Teleport's really good if you don't want to utilize U-turn, right? Allowed to kind of switch out
slow
real fast.
U-turn, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, and you don't have to put any investments into physical.
It's funny how moves like Teleport all of a sudden are useful.
Right, I love it. But if you're looking at even the RU set, I mean, the only thing you're really changing, you're not going to be using Thunder Wave. You're going to be primarily using Grass Knot or Heat Wave.
Grass Knot's a cool little. That would catch people off guard, I think.
Yeah,
having some random grass move.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't think would get one.
Absolutely. I don't know a lot of the other moves that he does learn. I mean, there might be a potential for defog. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But the reality is a lot of what Zatu's going to do is just hazard controlled magic bounce and then pivots, right?
For sure.
And he's there. He has Roost, so he's there just as that wall that kind of to mix some stuff up. But again, these sets are only good for that specific tier list. So seeing them in a draft league, it's going to be a little different, but I think it's fine. Definitely. I think it'll be good. So moving on, we also have pick number 2. And this one, I mean, we don't really have to explain it too much, but it's going to be Galvantula. Galvantula, I'll break this one down real fast. Galvantula, the main reason why you're going to use them is Sticky Web. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Sticky Web, you also have Volt Switch, so you have that Switch Initiative. Now, there is some upside with a lot of the dark types that are there, so if you're looking against like a Prankster Mon in Grimmsnarl, right? You have Bug Buzz there, which is greatly.
Oh yeah, he's got about 97 special attack. So that's like Galvantula is something that you would get like lower into the draft or wouldn't be drafted like it is now. So like for one of those things, it's not bad.
Well, and from tier to tier, you're never really going to change. And so this a typical moveset you're looking at like Thunder, Bug Buzz, knows Energy Ball.
Yeah, that's.
So I mean, if you're going against ground type, setting up sand, weather teams set up around there, dude. Energy Ball, even like rain teams. Big one that was drafted was Seismitoad, and already if we're leading with that with Galvantula, you have a 1-up, and again, a speed stat of 108.
That's pretty good.
It's really good.
Having teams that are a little slower that could use momentum. I think having a fast Volt Switcher or relatively fast Volt Switcher could make it, and having access to Sticky Web that kind of helps them out. So I think it could fit some holes for some teams for sure.
And I mean, look at the amount of the electric types that are there. Most of them are going to be Rotoms, which I mean they're not fast, but they're not slow either. But Galvantula is kind of a step above. I think the only one really that's notable is either Heliolisk or Raichu. You do have Jolteon in regards to speed stuff. You have Dracozolt, but again, that's more of a there's a gimmick. Yeah, there's a different spin on it. Especially with him having that dragon typing.
He's like he's not really like your standard sweeper that you would see. As Galvantula is more like that.
Absolutely. Pick number 3, Torkle. This Mon is incredibly important to our meta, especially in Draft League. You don't get a lot of weather setters. You really don't. And here's the reason why I think he's important. Stealth Rock.
Does he get Stealth Rock?
He gets Stealth Rock.
Dang, that actually is really good.
Yeah, he has Drought, okay, which is super important. He learns Rapid Spin.
That actually is solid, yeah.
Yeah, he can learn Lava Plume and Toxic if he really wants to. And this is for OU setting, and he knows Yawn. So if you're looking to put someone to sleep, that's important.
Also, just looking at it, so his best stats defense at 140, and he has access to Body Press, so...
Yeah.
Even though he's not got a great attack stat or special attack stat, really, he could make up for it.
Absolutely.
And honestly, it's kind of deceiving having a special attack be 85 because if he has Drought, that's going to power up your fire move, so he's going to be hit a little harder on a special attack side too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why. I mean, even though he's put in the UU tier, that a lot of the movesets and things that he's used for is for weather setups and that kind of defensive pivot. He used in OU and even Ubers. From what I'm looking at Smogon, right, which is the end all be all for single battling, right? That's insane. And so Torkle, I mean, if we look at the other teams that are even on this list, I'm going to be honest with you, Lex, who drafted the worst team in the league, right? The worst team in the league, and drafted a decent amount of fire types. You look at Chandelure, you look at Arcanine, setting up Drought's a big deal. She used to have Charizard, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But that's not bad. And then you look at other Pokemon that benefit from that. I mean, any fire type's going to benefit from a Drought. Any single one of it.
And even if you think about it the other side, so like say she was going to fight someone like Eric who's got a water team, having something to directly counter that is not a bad idea because if you reset over Pelipper with Sun. And now Seismitoad not only doesn't have Swift Swim, but he also his water attacks aren't as powerful. That's actually not a bad strategy.
And even look at Mons that have what was it? That they're going against that have Dry Skin and Heliolisk and Toxicroak, where they're losing HP because of the sun being out, right? Then you also got to look at grass Mons with chlorophyll on there to boost speed. Because remember, speed tiers in this meta is incredibly important. And again, I think Torkle, with just the massive amount of bulk that he has and a decent HP stat, not the greatest at 70, right? But that defense stat at 140 is insane. You're not looking for him to be a sweeper. So for you pair this with a Heat Rock, had that dried up for 5 turns max, I think 5 or 6. Dude, you can set up so much.
Situational, but he's definitely good.
Yeah, and for those of you
There's
who need
certain teams that work well with him.
Yeah, and for teams that need that physical bulk, dude, Torkle's your man. The next one, which caught me by surprise, was not expecting it. It's Machamp. Machamp was not drafted in League format, which now looking back at it is kind of odd. Machamp, and Phillip can go into more detail because he uses it for a lot of VGC battling. No guard. Phillip, explain.
Hold on, I believe that is where moves that don't have very high accuracy hit no matter what. So one of the things that he's really good with, not dynamic punch, it's one of the punches. Let me look. It's let me find it. Power up, not mega.
No, it's dynamic punch, 100% chance
punch?
to confuse
Dynamic
target.
punch,
yeah.
So usually it's got 50% accuracy. So for VGC, I use this for a little bit. It's kind of a gimmick, but it's still something good because it's 100 power, 50% accuracy. Well, that move now becomes 100 power, 100 accuracy, and it has a 100% chance to confuse you. So not only you get that, but also he can learn Stone Edge, which is notorious for missing all the time. But if you have no guard, then it hits 100% of the time. So it's one of those things where you could do that, or you could switch it up with his ability Guts and a Flame Orb.
Yeah.
And he's also got priority. He gets Bullet Punch too. So that's
which is fantastic for fairy typing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there's things about him, and he's got 130 base attack. That's really good. 90 HP, 85 special defense.
That's top tier right there.
He's got decent bulk and really good attack. So he's got priority. He's got 2 decent abilities that you could switch between.
Yep.
There's definitely some stuff you can do with him. He's not bad at all.
Yeah, and even pairing you mentioned it. Right, 80 defense, 85 special defense. But you have those two stat lines with HP set at 90, right? You don't even have to touch. You don't have to touch HP if you're gonna be like me, who likes to just do stupid sets, right? You don't even have to touch HP. You don't even have to touch attack. And put all of your bulk in defense and special defense if you really wanted to. If your team's missing out on a lot of that bulk, bro, there it is, and you can mix it up a little bit by applying some pressure. Team that would probably most benefit from this. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think Lex. I know Lex has a bunch of fighting types, but I think having that dynamic punch on tap. And then you think about Galvantula or Zatu with Thunder Wave, right? And a bunch of you can do some para-hacks type stuff where, they're confused, but they're also parried. And so you can kind of see that Lex can start having almost like a hacksy team because at this point you kind of need it, right? And then teams that are lacking on the physical bulk side, I think would benefit from Machamp greatly.
Just general bulk, I would say. He's got decent defenses both ways and decent HP. Yeah. So for bulk, you could go either way with that. But I think also the fact that he's got knockoff, he gets knockoff too. That's nice too. So he's got these weird kind of strategies that he has. He gets power up punch.
Which is great. You can start building that up.
Yeah, that's a weird thing you could do. It's not, not something you'd see all the time, but it's, something you can do. He's also got elemental punches, so ice punch, thunder punch, fire punch.
Ooh,
so he's got some decent coverage. He's not, he's not bad
he's
at
not
all.
a pushover.
There's Earthquake. He's got a really good move pool. So, he's bullet punch for priority, like I said. Bulk up if you want to set up. The only bad thing I think about him, not bad thing, but thing I see is that he doesn't really have any reliable recovery. So while he does have bulk, if that runs out, it's hard to get that back.
You can run Drain Punch.
That's true.
Potentially.
Yeah, that's actually
that's a thing.
That's not a bad idea, yeah.
So I think there's a lot of uses. If you're Eric Pastor, you're going to joke, well, Nate's going to run Assault Vest on him. But, just saying, for coaches that haven't really dabbled in Draft League a lot, don't think Assault Vest is a bad thing. I do think it creates bad habits later on. but if you're looking for that added bulk, you don't know where to turn to, I think that's your best option. Next is Vanillux. Rumor has it that a team is looking at Vanillux. I know I was early on when I had Ice Cube, and again, we'll get to that. I love Vanillux. He has Snow Warning, which immediately upon him going into the field activates Hail. So it's a weather thing. You can give him Never Melt Ice, so you get that full extension of weather. And boys, you have 100% accuracy blizzards going, just hitting people. Now, let me dive into this right here. Blizzard's 110 power, 70% accuracy. Has a 10% freeze rate. But if it's hailing, doesn't check accuracy, right? So no amount of accuracy manipulation with moves is gonna change that if hail's up. So Vanillux has the ability to just click that button, not have to think about anything else, and just start knocking things down. The reason why I say knocking things down is that, as we've talked about before, Ice is a very offensive typing, horrible defensively. Like, so even if you see like the special defense stat, in the 85, 90, 95 range, honestly, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in there. A lot of your damage is going to be from that special attack stat. So you're going to ramp up speed. You're going to ramp up special attack. You can run heavy-duty boots as well to make sure that he doesn't get, hacked out of, hazards. And guys, you're like, well, he's still slow. Well, that's okay, because you can run Ice Shard and have that priority, right? And again, it's ice typing. It's under hail, right? On top of that, you're like, well, bulky water types. He's got freeze dry. So a lot of those bulky water types you see, we look at some of the teams here. I mean, we're looking at Eric Dressler, whose whole synergies around rain. You look at Eric Pastor, where you can see his main base, Mons, it's probably be Vaporeon Wish passing. He just picked up Pyukumuku for other stuff as well. And so if you know he's bringing more water-based Mons based on your team, it's not a bad option. So rumor has it that Uriah's looking at Vanillux, right? And Vanillux, from his team perspective, isn't the greatest. Adding Vanillux isn't a big deal. But when you incorporate the possibility that people might be running Water Absorb, right, because he has Dracovish, it might be worth your while to have a base 110 Vanillux under Hail hitting Freeze Dry and potentially Blizzard for any random switch-ins, right? Now, I don't think it would help win the match against Goldenrod and Eric Pastor. I don't think it's going to help against. It would help slightly against Eric Dressler with Pelipper and Seismitoad. But if he knows Vanillux has the possibility coming out, I don't think he brings it. I think you're going to see Copperjaw, and you're going to see Umbreon. You're going to see your Weezings, right? You may see Goodra, because we know Goodra can take a hit. And you're definitely going to see Cloyster, who's going to be able to take that hit relatively easy, minus the Freeze Dry, just depending on how you play it.
Even Freeze Dry. Is Freeze Dry physical or special?
A Freeze Dry, I believe, is special.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, right. So you have to kind of play around it. But Vanillux is a niche pick. It's something that I think a lot of people write off. And the reason why it's our last pick is Machamp Bullet Punch can take it out, right? If you have that added bulk, Machamp's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I mean the only the downsides here I'm seeing, he definitely has some stuff for sure, but it's gonna kind of a weird speed tier, so that's kind of not great.
Yeah.
And as we said, Ice isn't a great defensive typing, so it's not the greatest thing in the world. But again, all of these are picks you would get at the bottom anyway, and they're kind of fixing missing pieces for teams, so it depends on what team it could work well. But also, I'm looking at his move pool. He doesn't have the greatest offensive move pool.
Nope, not at all.
He gets Flash Cannon, he gets a really good powerful ice moves, he does get priority. But besides that, there's not really a wide amount of type moves that he can use.
Yeah.
But like I said, fits puzzle pieces of certain teams. That's kind of what we're looking at with these picks. So.
No, absolutely. And again, a lot of these picks are based off the fact that, hey, my team's not complete. I need to fix some things on the lower end of my draft. Maybe my lower tier picks aren't as good as I once thought it was. We talked about it. Phillip's in a good spot where I think when we all kind of agree he has kind of the best draft in that lower tier part with Haxorus, Bronzong, Whimsicott, and Espeon. Because Espeon essentially does what Xatu does, but potentially better with
I would
access
say
to better move
I would
pools.
say better, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you could see a Vanillix being good on Michael's team in replace of Frostlass, but then Frostlass also has spikes and other stuff that Frostlass can do as a
Just do
lead.
different things, yeah.
Right, and so I think it just depends on what you're feeling. I honestly think even with like I know Eric Passer, I know he's not going to drop this Mon, but even if you switched it with Braviary, right, it just for an added like kind of that almost like a texture, right? Because again, ice is something that not a lot of people are preparing for because they're so limited and they're so few. So especially with ground types, like I mean, water ice types are going to decimate Viridian City and Chris, but with the amount of dragons, it might not be bad. All right, next is our lovely sleeper pick here. We had actually a long discussion about this because after Vanillux, it tends to get kind of funky. There's not like a set like, oh yeah, I would draft this Mon, or oh yeah, this is like standout, has to be drafted. Mons, because again, it's a league format. We thought about like, oh hey, ice type, let's just do Frostmoth, until you realize that even though it has great defensive like stats, it's not gonna do anything. It's just not. Indeedee, only good for essentially doubles. Double, I mean, sure, Cotton Guard and Body Press. You have Cursula, but if you have Corsola, then what's the point?
Right.
And then you have Hitmontop, which is great for rapid spinning.
Yeah.
But I mean, but if you're looking at fighting types, wouldn't you rather go with Machamp? I certainly would. And then you got Bolton, which Bolton is good, great actually.
Galvantula.
But you have Galvantula, right?
Other better electric types, I think.
Right, and when we look at like Ludicolo, like that's a great range. And that was definitely one that we talked about. But I think the one that I was going for was either Ludicolo or Serena, which is a big one, and I think was really good. But a lot of
Ludicolo for like that air adjustment.
Yeah, having that grain grass typing is insane. We also brought up Gallade, which isn't a bad thing for a special attack thing. There's also Passimian. But one thing that really stood out in Draft League, given kind of the skill set with the new coaches being added and stuff, is actually going to be Malomar.
Oh, right.
Right.
With his contrary ability, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Malomar's not the greatest Mon. It's not. We know that. You can even look at it just doing the eye test from looking at its stat lines.
It's very mediocre.
It's mediocre at best, right?
The contrary is what makes it really.
Absolutely. Now, for those of you who don't know what contrary is, Philip, can you care to explain to us, what contrary is?
Yeah. So there's moves in the game, like I'll use for example close combat, where if you use it, your attack and defense go down each stage. It's like a really powerful move, but it has a drawback like that. So contrary makes it so that those bad effects become opposites. So now when you use a powerful move like close combat, and normally it makes your attack and defense go down, and now it makes your attack and defense go up. But there's other things like superpower, where it's very powerful. This is the thing he has access to. And now with contrary, it actually raises his attack and defense up. So every time he uses this very powerful move, it actually gets stronger each time, and he gets more bulk every time. So it can, if you catch somebody when they're in a situation where you get a free superpower off, you can keep going and you keep applying this pressure, but you keep also building up defense. So it can really be something where like you can have Malomar and be like, all right, I just need to get rid of these couple of Pokemon, and then Malomar can just run house and there's nothing you can do to stop him. So it can be good. Really, that ability is what makes him, and I think can make him, fit on a team and he can work well. So.
Absolutely. And again, we talk about speed tiers a lot. And even though Malomar, in the grand scheme of Pokemon as a whole, right, with all the Pokemon ever created, it's relatively slow. But keep in mind this generation, kind of we're doing just the national decks for the Galar region, and the speed is only 2 points. 2 points below Dracozolt and Dracovish, right, at 75. So Malomar is not that slow in comparison. If Dracozolt is your medium tier speed, that's not bad. And if you're in need of someone really to apply pressure, screw leftovers, slap a choice scarf on it. Slap Choice Scarf.
Well, he also gets access to Switcheroo, which is basically
yes.
takes whatever item you have and switches it with your opponent. So you could, I don't know, say like you lead with him, right? You could even do something crazy like this where someone's lead is like Ferrothorn, where they really don't want to have a Scarf item because they have moves where they're more status, right? So if you led with that, they have no idea what Malomar is going to do. They're like, what the heck is this thing?
Right, yeah. Who expects Switcheroo?
Switcheroo on your Ferrothorn, and it's like, now my Ferrothorn's essentially useless. Because usually, and the funny thing about the Ferrothorn example is that usually they have Gyro Ball, which is dependent on their speed. So not only would that make it so that they would be trapped, but their Gyro Ball attack would be not as good. So there's things like that you can do. He could work out for sure.
Yeah, and again, this is all meant for Draft League. So if you're tuning in for the first time and you're like, okay, well, why am I picking this for my team? Why should I even be interested in these Pokemon? Draft League gives you a unique opportunity to really explore different tiers and be able to kind of use lower tier Mons for your team to kind of get a one-up on people. And remember, these Mons are picked specifically because each week in and week out, you're preparing for just one team. And you already know what their 9 Mons are. You're just trying to guess what 6 they'll bring. And so a lot of these low-tier Mons are going to be, utilized in such a way that they're going to be the most effective towards the team that they're playing against, even if they bring them or not, right? So adding Malomar to the mix that another team has to prep for is incredibly scary, especially with that typing, right? Really, the only thing that it really needs concern about, let's look at it. It's a little scared of Fairy, right? And it's 4 times weak to Bug. That's it. It's immune to Psychic because of its Dark type, right? And so it doesn't have a lot of weakness. It only has 2 weaknesses, right? And 1 immunity, which is great. Everything else hits normally, right? When in contact with him. Doesn't have to worry about a lot of that super effective nonsense, right? If it just focuses on those 2, it can go in and start wrecking shop. It can even hit you with the superpower, right? That isn't even super effective against you. But because of Contrary now, you go in there like, oh, it's +1. Oh, no, it's +2. Oh, no, I didn't stop this, right? And if most of the Pokemon in Draft or just in the current National decks are more geared towards physical play, that's scary. Because that 88 defense goes a long way. And just as a little snippet, keep in mind, guys, that even in Smogon, right, Dragapult, the special attacker itself, is used more physically, right? So even Mons you would even see. Now I looked that up. I looked that up from Wolfie and a couple other people from PokeMD, right? That the move pool is more diverse
and
special, but it's essentially more geared towards physical with the inclusion of Dragon Darts and Dragon Dance. It's a little funky. It's a little funky.
100%, because Dragon Darts is really good in VGC.
Oh, absolutely.
But I would say in singles, I don't know.
I would say it's special.
I would say more often it's special, yeah.
But, if you're coming into this for the first time, that's going to be scary. Most of the Mons even that we look at that are drafted are either hazard setups or physical Mons. You look at Ecruteak City, my team, okay? My team isn't bad, but the only special guys I got is Rotom-Mow, Gengar, Gardevoir. Orbeetle's a hazard. Lapras is hazard, right? Or at least control. And Charizard's just whatever you feel like, and it dies to Stealth Rocks. So if my top Mons are all physical, and I haven't prepped for this Malomar, I'm in some serious doo-doo. But let's be honest, the only Mon I have really to counteract that is Gardevoir. It's the only Mon I have. So, just keep that in mind a little bit. There's still a U-turn to think about as well. But these are the picks for the waiver wire for Week 1. As we go farther into it, we will tend to look a little bit more into each team. We'll be able to see each team's matches and see where they failed, what they can improve on, and be able to kind of structure these episodes in for each team that may need it. Or if we see if there's a need within the league where people need certain Pokemon. Hey, we got you. But this is Week 1 of the Waiver Focus. This is Nathaniel Shook and Phillip signing out. We'll see you guys next time.